Hello, and I'm back to show you more of setting up the unit on Scott Boulevard. Where we left off was I finished tagging this unit here, and I was going to run BIM. Since the last video, I've talked to the PM. I am starting in the right place. I'm going to have to do the PAL schedule eventually. We had Beta go through here and number all of the units with ID tags, so I can do the pallet schedule now, and I'm going to do that in some other video later. Right now I'm still going to focus on that one unit. So back over here, I'm going to start with just running QBIM. I already have all my metal. I'm going to QBIM it so you can see it all in 3D. And the first thing I like to do when I get to one of these is just look around a little bit, make sure it looks right. Over here you can see we have some problems. The vertical is definitely too long. This part's upside down. The whole head looks like it's in the wrong place because it's pretty close to this, it's supposed to be pretty close to this hook lug, and it's really far away from the glass right now. So, and I'm pretty sure the glass is right, so the head's probably in the wrong spot. This horizontal, looks like the horizontal body's in the right place, but the covers, the face stop and the extended cover are in the wrong spots. You can see this one's overlapping in green. Going down here to the sill, definitely the vertical's too short. Looks like my glass might either be the wrong thickness or have the wrong setback or both. It probably needs to be shifted back a little closer to the pocket there. If I rotate around, look at it from the bottom, looks like this notch is either wrong or this part's the wrong size, but at least the layout of the vertical and the bayonet locations are right, looks right. And then some of these other parts probably the wrong length. Over on this side, it looks like my bayonet's in the wrong spot, so that's kind of a surprise. Actually, no, that's not much of a surprise because this is a different width of the vertical. It's 2 3/4 on this job, and normally this was probably set up for 3 1/2, so I'll have to investigate that a little bit. My lug's way off. I probably had to do a left and a right lug. Maybe the tag lines weren't named. I'm not sure. But I have a list of things that I need to look at. The first thing I'm probably going to look at is the layout problems like this. I want to make sure that all my parts are in the right places, especially if the data is used over and over again. You want to make sure that's all right. And then this thing here, the head being wrong, this thing being upside down, I need to investigate what that is. It's probably layout. It could be other things too. This is layout. So let's go back to our data. So I'm going to run my takeoff properties window here. I'm going to run my UD command, and let's just start with a head. And on the head, apparently it's using this one. It should be using the Inviso one, but I guess they're the same, so this would work. The head is the same at the captured versus the Inviso, so this is probably okay. So these layouts are wrong, or my tagline's in the wrong place for the layout, etc., etc. So I'm just going to rerun the layout. So that involves me opening the detail. The detail was 502. I'm going to run in model space, and I pick one of the parts and I run the little plus button on it, and it wants the first point of the face of system. I'm going to do this whole system on the dim point, which is what you should be doing. So start there. I have a perfectly vertical face of system represented by that green line. Interior of the system is this way. Tagline is located, I think I put it there. Well, my elevation, where did I put it here? put it in some weird spot, I think. It's up here in some nonsensical part of the head. I'm going to move this down to here, so that's on the inside daylight. I established this inside daylight from the previous video, so I'll just move that tag down there, and I'll do my layout from there. I think I'll get a better result that way. So faces system is going to be along this, where these two lines intersect. There. Okay, and then select the part. I'm doing the 3501. That's odd. Select the whole thing, so it's probably still a block. I'm not sure if that's going to work, but we'll find out. So the one on the server came in green, and you can see it's slightly different on the server, but it's close enough to be correct. Yeah, it's slightly different size, huh? Yeah, it's close enough. And then my numbers here should have changed. It's not at 270. It used to be at 270. Now it's at 90. I'm having a little bit of second thoughts here as far as, because I'll have to rerun layout on every time this head occurs, and there's several in this detail. Those 5, this one. There could be others in other details. And then it becomes kind of a hunt to try and find them. I could change them all in the database in the back end. Or I can try and use the same tagline location. But I think it's better to try and fix it now and try and fix it later. And at least it will be a consistent place on the building that isn't, or on the unit drawings that isn't some random weird location. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to run the green button again on the main head member. And because it's the same tagline, it assumes the same tag location. And I just select the part. Enter. Use the default attachment location, so it will be up here. It looks a little, well, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but the green line looks like it's slightly off of the purple line, but it actually isn't. It's just because I have my line thicknesses on in AutoCAD so that they're easier to pick up in the video. It's probably really hard for you to see the green on here, but that looks good. And I got this other layout here, so that's probably fine. Might be a good time to propagate this change to all the other head members, but let me first make sure it's correct once I run BIM. So get my metal tags up. This one is probably it. And I want to move that down here like I promised. My glass tag is still up there because I don't want my glass mark number to change. But my metal tag will be down here, down closer to the lugs. All right, I'm just going to save this real quick. UPD to let the database figure out what's going on now. And then I'll run QBIM again on everything. Let's see if I get. So having just run layout on that, I'm pretty sure my head's on the right spot now. Yeah, this looks all good. If this was still flipped over, there's probably some die drawing issue that's messing up. Vertical's still too long, obviously, but that's probably because of the taglines. This is really close here, which I think is what the detail shows. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Yeah, see, pretty close together. So now my head's in the right place. I'm going to fix the layout on all the other parts. So let's just move down to the horizontal and do that one. Close this guy. So let's open. Oh, well, first I'm going to UD on the mark number. That opens it up directly to 8N is the one I'm working on. Looks like there was no layout run at all on the extended cover, and there is a layout here, but this was wrong. That is the wrong number. I'm thinking that this came from a standard setup, a standard standard layout for a normal face cap that doesn't have the hooks in the front. So that's where this number probably came from. That's where it's probably wrong. So I'm guessing now that layout wasn't run on all of these details. Maybe some of the initial ones, but not all the way through. So let's go to the horizontal detail, which is on 501, and I'll do layout again. Now the whole purpose of layout is to tell the program where the part is based on where I drew the tagline. So that's all I'm telling you here. It needs to know on this detail where the faces system is because everything is modeled from the faces system. It also needs to know where on this detail the inside of the building is and where you put the tagline. That's what this last question is. So I put the tagline here with this faces system, and this is the part. And you can select part of it, you can select all of it, doesn't matter too much. It does have a higher chance of figuring it out quickly if you select everything. But the more lines that you have, the longer it can take. And hopefully you guys won't be sitting here watching this for 10 minutes. I don't think it will take 10 minutes for this part. Unless there's something really wrong with it. Still going. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds and then I'll just figure it out by hand if I have to. Another thing you can do is bring it in from the parts library, because then it will be a perfect 100% match and it should figure it out really quick. It's when it's not 100% match, that's when it takes a long time because it has to try everything until it, with the hopes of finding a 100% match. Yeah, this is taking too long. Let's just cancel this out. Get impatient with that thing because I have seen it go for 10 minutes or so, so I don't really, and I'm recording this, so I don't really want to have that go for too long. So I found the quickest way for me to recover from a crash like that one is, well, you can't see it because it's on the other screen, but you can right-click on the AutoCAD icon in your taskbar, and it'll have a list of your recently opened files, and it should have all the stuff, and it does, the things that I recently opened. So let me get, it doesn't have my elevation, but it has everything else. So I'm going to start with a detail. I can also right-click and open the unit because that was there. Oh, I got the BIM. I actually worked on another job after I opened them up the first time, so all that stuff from the other job is there. So I'm going to have to open a few things automatically or manually. That's Scott. Okay. So 209 was the elevation. And get my unit back open. Drafting, take off units. The only unit. And I did save it after I moved that thing down. That's good. Need to run UD on horizontal. It opens up my UD window over here. And I didn't save it after I ran the layout where it crashed there. So this over here. Model space. And I'll just do this one by hand. If my tagline is over here, and the way this thing looks in the parts library, it should be the same as this view here. So it's W75, 2131. 2131. So it looks the same as this. So I should be able to, well, let's just drop this in. Let's be all super safe about it. I'm gonna make this guy green just so I can tell the difference. Could be a difference between the die that's on the server and the die that's in this drawing. So I'm dropping it in just to make sure I'm not gonna find some surprises, and looks like it's fine. Looks like a perfect match. So my offset is the distance. Well, first of all, my angle, because it's the same orientation and this is a horizontal, it should be 90 degrees. So this should be 90. Based on that, if I project a line across the top of this to the face of system over here, the offset would be the distance from my tag line to that intersection along the face of system, which in this case is 0. So that should be 0. That's good. And then setback is the distance from the face of system directly back along the angle to the first point here, which is probably this guy. It should be that distance, which if I look on my quick properties is 21.34. This is 21.3, so that should be fine. Yeah, this thing was in the right place. Displacement is blank in this, and I'm not flipping it over, so invert's fine. Face stop. I'm going to run layout on this because I'm pretty sure it'll be okay. Things with not very many sides usually turn out better than things with a ton of sides, like this thing had 10 different polylines that I had to figure out. Face of system, tagline location, and then 1332, which is this guy. 68% match found. Looks like this part has changed a little bit. Ooh. Looks like this whole front engagement is different. So that's a little worrisome, because if it is back that far, it's not going to engage on this guy very well, unless this one has changed too. So I kind of want to keep that in mind when I do this next layout. Maybe I'll insert them to make sure that they actually engage right, because these parts may not be perfect mating together. And if not, I'll have to talk to Jumpstart or the PM or something and find out what's really going on. But I'll investigate that if that becomes a problem. And it did my layout here. This is a different number than it was before, and that should be good. Let's run it on the last piece here. Same tagline location, so I just picked the part. %55 match. Looks like this did move down, and I'm guessing it's probably the same, and it probably engages perfectly now. I'd check that, but I'll check it just to make sure. But my layout is done here, so I'm going to hit apply. All these are 90, so that's cool. I'll drop in 1332. In green again. And then the last guy, 2507. Two lines. So yeah, the green ones look like they mate good. So yeah, they mate perfectly. So I'm probably okay. So there's my layout for the horizontal. Let's do the sill. So UD'd on that, brings me right to sill 8N. I think these were right. When I looked at the BIM model, these were correct. I think it was my glass that was wrong. So let's take a look at the glass on the details. So in the detail here, face of system to face of glass is 1 inch, and the glass is 1 inch as well. So let's put that in there. So usually I don't do this, usually I don't really care too much about where the glass is on the model because it doesn't make a difference a lot of times. But I do want to make sure that this unit is right, especially the first unit. So I'm going to tell it that the setback here is 1. And the default thickness for glass is 1. So I'm pretty sure I don't have to change that. So I'm just going to verify that these glass tags are in the right spot for this unit, and then I'll have really good faith that all of my metal parts are in the right place, at least horizontally they're in the right place, and then I can use my metal parts in future units to make sure that my glass is right, even though the glass is probably going to be wrong in those future units. UPD. I don't know if that made any sense, but I'm just going to get this one right, and if the other ones are wrong, well, that's up to the other person. I don't think they have to be right. It just helps. Q BIM, everything. Now let's take a look at this on the side. So I moved the glass back on both lights. This head has moved. This is rotated. Good there. Horizontal looks much better. The stops are in the right spots. My glass looks good there. Then at my sill, I didn't run layout on the sill, but you can see here that the glass, since I moved the glass back 1/4 of an inch, it looks like it's in the right spot. I'm pretty sure this layout is correct because just eyeballing it, sill 8N has an offset of 0, so I know it's at 90 degrees here. So I know that it's in the right spot vertically, and it's rotated the right direction. And it looks like it matches with the glass. That looks like it's about 1/2 inch. Everything looks fine there. So let's take a look at the verticals. These may be wrong. Remember, I saw that the notches didn't line up, and that's probably because the width of the glass, or the verticals are different. That's probably why this thing is off too. So just to be on the safe side, I'm going to run layout on those two and compare. So that's on 557. Right. For my 2 parts. And I should have UD'd before I left the unit. UD on this guy. The invert R and L. Make sure these are checked as vertical, so that's good. And let's do L first because I already have it selected. So the face of systems along this dim point dimension, and then inside's here, and the tagline for the left is along this daylight. This is invert L, it's the left side of the unit. So it's this vertical here, and we drew them on the right side of every mullion, so that should be it. Hopefully this one doesn't take forever to run. I get nervous whenever you have this kind of thing because it usually takes longer on those. Okay, that didn't take long. It finished. Looks like a really good match with the server. And it got 0 to 1/4. The original probably looks like this. They look the same. So I probably didn't end up moving it. That's good. And then bayonet. Let's run that too. this bayonet's at 90 degrees. I want to make sure I keep that correct because I only want one bayonet fab. I don't want two. And if these things should be related where this one's 90 degrees and then the other one's 270. So if this one's 90, this one would be 270. That represents a rotation 180 degrees to get from one to the other. And then they end up being the same fab. If I don't, if these are both 90 degrees, then it's going to try and flip it end over end to go from this side to the other. And that's not what I want, because that it kind of implies that I want two different fabs and it'll look weird on the BIM model and all this other stuff. So I'm just going to make sure that this comes out as 90 degrees. And if not, I'll have to force it to be 90 degrees. That looks good. And that looks good. And this thing didn't have a bayonet, so I can't tell if it's the same, but it's probably the same. The adjustment at the top, these need to stay relative. Well, these are probably going to have to change. I'll figure that out later. Invert R. Let's run that one. So I got to face the system, but this time it's asking me for the tagline location. I don't remember where this one was. It's out here. This is invert R. Looks like it's 1 3/8 from the daylight. So this one's right at the dim point. Is it like, is it? Yeah, it looks like it is. Sometimes I don't like these thick lines. I turn them on so that you can see them in the video a little easier. So I believe that's at dim point, so that should be easy to lay out. So click on that. Tagline is at the intersection right here. And we're looking at this part. 5151. It's running. Taking a little longer than the last one. I suspect that these would take about the same amount of time, but maybe not. Okay, there we go. Came in. Let's go check if that changed it. I don't remember what the numbers were, but this one has the old numbers. Looks the same. So my guess is that this bayonet wasn't run. Notice how this one's 270 and the other one's 90. Oops. So that's what I was talking about before. So let's run that. Invert R. And this guy, it's probably going to come out as a 90 and it's going to try and flip it over. That's usually what happens. No, it didn't. Oh, that's good. So got a nice 270 here, which is exactly what I wanted. It's not flipped over, so I'm not mirroring between the two. See how invert is not checked here, and on L it's also not checked. So I'm not mirroring the bayonets. I'm not flipping them end over end from one side of the unit to the other. So that's good. Hit apply. So I think I got all my layouts correct now. Oh, I have to double check the lug. It's really hard to see in the BIM model if the lug's in the right spot, so I'm just going to run it again to make sure. Lug's on 502. Oops. So lug. It's also on 502. Lug L. Right now the offset's 0. That means that it's wherever I put the tagline, that's the top of the part. It's at 90 degrees. It looked like it was the right orientation. I'm just going to verify this setback. I'm not going to run the whole thing. So it's 6 1/8. So this distance from here, that's the front of the lug, to the faces system, which is over here, should be 6 1/8. And it looks like it is exactly 6 1/8. So pretty sure the lug's in the right spot. Lug L looks the same as lug R. The one problem is they have the same fab number here. So that needs to be fixed. So let's see what we did here on the unit. That's lug L. And that's lug R. So lug R should be, I believe this should be 1R, and that should be R there, so that it attaches to the right side of this tagline rather than the left side. And that's why this thing was off in space on our BIM model. I don't know if they're supposed to be 3/4. Let's check the detail on that just while we're dealing with this thing. Gotta find the note. I don't think the mark number was spelled out. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't see anything here that tells me how thick that lug actually is. So I'm going to write that down somewhere so I can ask someone. Or maybe if I flip through some of the details, maybe it's on a different one. Real quick, I'm only going to go through a few of these. Like this guy. It's like nowhere that this mark number is listed. We could check a. Oh, hey, I called out the part, but no length. All right, I could flip through all of these, but I don't think I'm going to find it. So what I'm going to do, before I ask someone, before I write that down, I'm going to go on the portal and check if there is something that might give me a clue, like previous fabs for that part number. So that's something else. Let's go shop. Oops. Shop work orders, and the part number. Part number is 5705, W75 5705. Let's close that. 5705. If we ever, no, looks like there's never been a work order for this. We usually buy these out, so that's not too surprising. So I'm going to write down a note so I ask someone about that later. Lug length. Typical hook lug is 3/4, but this one's like counterboard, and it's a new thing, so I want to make sure I get that length right. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at 3/4, and I'll fix it later. Great. So UPD. Actually, one thing I want to do is I want to make sure my vertical tag, or all my taglines themselves, are the right length, because I want to have a standard way to tag these things, and the way it was done on the unit, on the elevations, because I copy these tags from the elevation. I kind of don't like the way this is up here. I moved the head already down. I might as well do the same thing here. Usually these verticals, they run up to the head line, and that's it. So I'm just going to do that. And then when I start fixing the lengths of the verticals, it'll be based on where I put this tagline. And so that we'll consistently have to put the tagline to there, perpendicular to this. That's very typical for us, so in the takeoff group. Also, the right side of the mullion on the vertical is usually where we put the tags, so I kind of like that the way it is. I don't want to put it on this because I don't know where the heck that is. I could put it here, but then I'd have to redo layout. This is pretty typical for us to have it on the right side, or either the dim point or something like that, maybe even 2.5 away. I'm just going to leave it there at dim point. It's easy enough to remember. All right, UPD. Just moving the end of that vertical down, it might have made my verticals the right length now. Who knows? Let's save it. I haven't saved it in a bit. QBIM all. All right, let's take a peek. The main things I did, I changed where that tagline went for the vertical. Looks like it's still wrong, but it does look like my bayonet's probably in the right spot. It's just the vertical's too long. The takeoff person probably just added 4 inches to be safe. I didn't change any of that. Let's go to the underside here. I redid layout on the bayonets and stuff. This one looks fine. And over here, the bayonet's touching now, so this is all in the right spot. So that all looks good. So my next step, usually for me, I like to, at this point, get the lengths right. I know they're wrong at the moment. So there's a couple ways you could do it. You could do it in the data. Because I'm already in the BIM model, I'm just going to do it in here. So let's start with the verticals, because they're easy to see. There's only one piece on the verticals. It's this big pink one. There's 2 of them. And if you look at the takeoff properties, I'm going to lock this window open because I kind of like that. I can see which one I'm picking on. If I click there, I can't really tell what part I have, except over here it shows me it's 5150. So, but I want both of these to terminate at the underside of here because the head is notched and it goes over the top of the verticals. So I'm just going to grab one of these. I don't want to grab them both, no matter which one. Grab it by this grip here, and then I just snap anywhere on this plane, and it stretches that vertical down. You can see the pink line here. It's down there now. You can also see over here on the takeoff properties window that it crossed off the mark number because it knows it's going to change, and the length is different now. I'm going to grab this guy again, and I'm going to fix, I'll just save it. Once I save this BIM model, it transfers what I did here onto the database. Now, one of the things it's asking me now is, do I want this to change all of the invert L's or just the one invert L on this one unit? And it would make a different data item for it. Most of the time you're going to want to do this. I'm going to make this a global change. I only have one unit, so I want to build off of this data that I'm fixing. I'm going to have to save it after every change so that the takeoff program keeps asking me what I want to do as far as updating just the one tag or all of them. Or the one tag, the one tag or all of them. So I'm moving the next one now. Now they're both down here, which is where I want them. Both crossed off. Save again. And update base data. Now the bottom, I imagine that this guy is supposed to go all the way down to here. Let's double check the detail. I should have gone 5-1. Oops, happened. So it looks like, this goes all the way down to the underside of the sill body. So that's exactly what I'm going to do over here. Just grab one at a time, pull it down to here. Looks like there was a fillet there, so I didn't quite get that right. Down to there, and then save it. And I want to change them all. And then again for this part. I'm kind of ignoring the notches right now. Those I'm going to check in a later step. So I stretch the other vertical down and save again. So now these verticals should be the right length. I usually don't actually do that calculation to figure it out. I'm trusting the BIM model. I've already checked that the glass has been checked. I know that's the right size. I know all of my horizontal parts are in the right places, and therefore, I know my verticals are running to the right places on those horizontal parts. So the verticals should be the right length. If this is wrong, there's something else majorly wrong. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm very confident that these are the right numbers, and I'm not going to check them. The checker can find that out, but I'm 99% sure. I don't like to do too many of these kind of changes onto the BIM model before I remake the BIM model. So at this point, I'm just gonna close it. I already saved it. Then I'll re-UPD this thing just to update the mark numbers. And then QBIM again. And it should have remembered everything I did. It also gave me new mark numbers, so these aren't crossed off anymore. You can see everything's still in the same spots, top and bottom. All right, let's worry about the horizontals. Horizontals are a little harder to do just because there's so many of them stacked up on top of each other. So I'm going to just isolate part of this. So I drew a box around the bottom part of this so I get the sill and the verticals. And then I'm going to right click, isolate objects, so it only shows me those. And now when I look here at the bottom side, I can see only the sill and focus on it. So right now the light blue is the sill body, and it's running from this daylight, and I know this vertical's in the right place, so that's correct. And to this daylight, so that looks like it's the right length. Unless this needs to be notched in some way. I don't think they are in the W75 system because we build a bridge across the top of the glass in caulking so that it can't be on the glass. And then we just let it run through the front. Yeah, there's no notch there. This face stop, I need to make sure this is in the right place. So let's take a look at the detail because this is an Inviso condition. I don't have any nice spot to put that. It's on 557. So they got it drawn here with a 16th inch gap. Now, if I tell the shop to cut it with a 16th inch gap, it's going to end up being bigger than that in the building. I think we decided to cut these tight and with a scant note that says to cut it a 30-second short, so it's even tighter than this. Let me double check the server data for W75. So I ran the ACAD parts command. That brings up something that looks a lot like project details or the UD window, but this is coming not from my project, it's coming from the server. And all the details are named after standard detail names. So I want to look at the sill. That's so can. This is the head. So a sill piece here, when it's running Inviso to Inviso, or just Inviso to captured. So I'm going to focus on the left side of this one. It has it running tight, like I said. This is 1 1/4. All this data is built for a 2.5 inch vertical system. So this adjustment, which would be 1 1/4 from daylight, would make it tight to the other side, which if we look at 6N here, it's 1/4. Oh, that's interesting. It's a 16th short on this side, so that is surprising to me. Let's look at the horizontal. That's really surprising. Let's rotate. Wow. Oh, that's right. Because at a captured, we would have a 16th inch gap from the captured vertical to the captured face stop on the sill. So this is at a captured condition. At an Inviso condition, it would also be 1.25. Yeah, that makes sense now. I'm just confusing myself. So we'll do, and this is all on Fab 2. Fab 2 has that scant note that says to cut it a 30-second short. So that's what I'm going to do on mine. So back to the sill. Notice that there are some reference details going on here. That's interesting. distracting myself a little bit. Looks like the sill is set up over here as well. It's a stack with a small cap. Sill can with small cap. I chose the wrong one. Gotta make sure I fix the, well, I can fix the right data if I just do it in here, right? So I want this guy to be Fab 2, so it has the scant note. So I'm just going to highlight it here and change it. And then I click off of it, out of this little area here, onto either this text or this text. And now it crosses this off. And now I can verify that this is going to be the right length. So I'm just going to align my UCS to my current view and try and draw a dimension from the daylight over to here. Right now it's 1 3/8. This is a different size system. This is a 2 3/4 system. So this would put it right at the dim point and make it tight. So that's what I want there. And then over here, same thing. So the blue looks like it's in the right spot. I just had to change the fab number so that I can add the scant note to it later. And sometimes I'll do the fab number changes now, and sometimes I'll do them in another pass. I'm just doing them now because, or doing this one at least now because I saw it. And I started talking about it in this video, so I might as well tell you. All right, I'm going to unisolate. So I'm happy with the sill and object isolation. I also want to save this, so because I changed that fab number, I want to save this so that that fab number is changed on the real data. So this guy here, it's probably going to be the same logic. I'm going to highlight this stuff and isolate so I only see the one horizontal. And go back to my view here. Excuse me. This is my horizontal piece. It's running from daylight to daylight, so that's good. No notches involved, just like on the sill. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Let me double check again. I'm using my ACAD parts window again. I'm going to look at the horizontals that are running at Invisos, like this one here, and see if there's adjustment on the main body. This is the main body right there. There's no adjustment, so there must be no notches on this thing. I'm not sure why it's Fab 2 there. Oh yeah, Fab 1 on W75 has cutouts around captured, and Fab 2 in this case would have no cutouts. Just to double check, the sill at Inviso also has no notch. So I'm happy with that piece. The face stop, the blue one, it should be the same as the other one. So it should be Fab 2. Let me change that. And also it should be 1 3/8 from the daylight. So let's measure that. Double check, 1 3/8. One 3/8. So I'm happy with that guy now. And then I'll save it after that fab change. And then this one here is probably the same situation. Probably runs the same length, and it probably also has that scant note. So I kind of have a decision to make. Do I want, I think just to be consistent, all the Fab 2s will have the scant note for these covers and the stops. So I'm going to change this one to Fab 2 as well. And it's the same length as the blue, and same length as the blue. Save that. Now back to my ISO view and object isolation. And I'm going to isolate the stuff at the top. Look at that. I'm going to grab the lugs too and do them at the same time. Isolate, flip my view around. Now this one will probably need some work. or not. There's a notch in the back there. That's pretty good sign. But this looks like it's the wrong size. Anyway, the main body here, let's look at the detail. So this blue line here should be the heads coming together above the vertical, and they're leaving a evenly divided 1/4 inch between, which if I look at my data for a standard W75 system head, it's an 1/8 inch short from the center line, so that would be a 1/4 total. So that seems to agree with our standard. So I'm going to do the same thing with this. Except of course mine's not going to be 1 1/8 past here. It's going to be 1 1/4 because this system's bigger. So let's draw a dimension from daylight to the purple part, or the magenta part. See, it's still 1 1/8. So I want to grab this and pull it out 1/8 of an inch. And it looks like that's probably what all the notches and stuff for this fab are supposed to be doing. I don't know where that notch came from, but I'm glad it's there because it's looking pretty good so far. This one's probably also going to have to come out the extra 1/8 inch just to make sure. Yeah, see, that's 1 1/8. So I'll pull this out extra 1/8, and it'll be 1 1/4, and then I can save this to my data. Head looks good. This piece here is visible from outside of the building, and there's caulking between it and, if we look up here, there's caulking right here. So this is completely exposed, so it needs to look nice. Let's see where we put it on the standard W75. So looking at head, it's actually this UNI part here, and it's got the same adjustments as the body, so I'm probably going to make a match. Sounds fair. So I'll grab this guy and just line it up to the magenta, both sides. Oh, that one is refusing to move, probably because of my ortho. Let me turn it off. Oops, I turned off those now. Oh, that's weird. Huh. Yeah, I've seen that happen before. I haven't figured out what it was. Maybe I'm picking the wrong thing. No. I found that the UCS sometimes does this. Change rolled around a little bit. Pull it out. UCS view. I don't know why that's not moving. Huh. That's odd. Well, let's do it in ISO view. I think it'll work here. Grab it like that. And I want it on the edge of the magenta. There. That time it moved. And now that you can see over here that they're the same length. And I'll save it. And base data change. Want that everywhere. All right. These two parts are verticals. We already fixed those. Let's take a look at the bayonet's a standard length at 7 1/4. That, just verifying with the server data, it's 5601. It's 7 1/4 here. It's also 4 15/16 off the top of the tagline. I don't think that's right over here. These holes probably should line up. if this notch is right. I'm not willing to assume that that notch is right quite yet. So let's just measure that on the detail. Doubly certain. So the detail here has it up there, and from the top surface of the head, it's about 3 7/16. I always check the decimal in case it's funny. So I should get 3 7/16 on my bend model as well. Yes. That's not 3 7/16 at all. So that's probably not the right place. Let's, where's my data? Very curious why that is. I have an idea what that might be. But let's go to my 502 head. I could just, oh, sorry. Let's go to my 557, which goes back to 554. This guy. Yeah, look at that. 4 and 5. So that matches the server data. I must be putting my tagline in a different place than the server. It's probably not a good idea. Interesting. So that means that on the server, on these, my adjustment at the top is 1 5/16. So the difference between these two is 3 5/8. And on mine, well, I got to refresh this because this thing's lying to me. It should be more. Yeah, I must be putting my tagline in a different spot. The end of my vertical. I don't know if I like that. This is a different headpiece, though. I don't think the original headpiece came down as far as this one. Let me check the standard detail real quick. Oh, I don't think the standard detail exists anymore for the old style stack joint. Yeah, it's been replaced. I think this used to be up higher on the old piece. Well, it was a tube before. It would have been solid through here. Maybe the vertical line came up here or something like that. I'm not sure. There's something weird going on. I don't really want this to be non-standard. That would be bad. Because that means I would have more things to change in this data. Like right now, I'm just changing a few uses. But if actually for this vertical, it's not so bad. There's extensive reference details that are pointing to 554. So I'm getting pretty good bang for my buck. Let's just figure out what it should be based on my layout or my tagline locations, which are correct as far as I'm concerned. So the top of the bayonet, that number that you see in the data, it should match where my tagline is, the top of my vertical tagline, which is here, and to the top of the bayonet. So it should be 5 3/16. So let's just change that. Since I'm all the way back here typing things in, I'm going to remake my BIM model and re-UPD and all that stuff. So close this. I'm not going to be sure not to save that. I already saved it when I made the other changes. CPD this, and we make the bit model. Let's save this too. Look, and the holes line up. So pretty sure they're in the right spot now. I can measure it. Oops. Yes, view. Keep forgetting. 5 3/16. That looks pretty good. Yeah, this looks fine. Now, with the exception of my lugs, which I have to ask about, I don't know if these are the right size. But the rest of this looks pretty good. I got my cover going across. So yeah, this looks pretty good. So I'm going to stop the recording now. Next time I'm going to go through these fab templates and make sure they're correct. It looks like I have all the right parts in the right places with the right lengths, with the possible exception of this lug. The next step would be to go through all of the templates, make sure I have all the right notches and attachments and that kind of thing on all of those, and that will be the next video. All right, thank you very much.